welcome back. So today I am doing a wrap-up of my Cozyathon reading, and just to give you a heads up, the reason that I'm doing so many sort of review videos and separate videos is that I read a lot in February, like more than people should probably read, so please don't ever feel pressured like you need to be reading the amount I did, but I read a lot, and if I were to talk about all of those books in one video, it would just be insanely long. So in order to actually get to chat about all of the books that I read, I'm kind of breaking this up into pieces. I will have one full wrap-up where I do talk about a few of the books and briefly go over all of the books that I read in the month, but I'm also doing a series of kind of shorter videos talking about smaller groups of the books so that I can really chat with you guys about them. So for today, I want to tell you guys about the things that I read during Cozyathon, and this was a readathon in the first half of February that was hosted by the lovely Silvia Kay. I will leave a link to her channel down below, so definitely go check her out. And this was just really fun. There were a series of challenges. Some of them were reading challenges, some of them were other things like read a book in a coffee shop, or a variety of things. One of the challenges that I thought was kind of cool was read a fairy tale retelling and then watch the movie of that retelling, and so I did that. And there were a series of other book related challenges, and so I read quite a few things for that readathon, so I wanted to share with you guys the things that I read. So since I just mentioned it, I thought I would go ahead and first talk about the book that I read to meet the challenge of reading a fairy tale retelling. For that, I chose A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, and this is the final book in this trilogy, which is a sort of loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. I actually think this might be my favorite book of the series. I just thought it was fun, it's interesting storytelling, I liked some of the side characters. I know some people got irritated because there's a lot less focus on Feyre in this book, but I actually kind of liked that. I like a lot of the side characters and I liked seeing their relationships develop, and so I'm excited to read A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is the next sort of spin-off book in the series that's coming out soon. I think it's going to be fun. If you haven't read these books, they're sort of like new adult fantasy romance. They're not like epic fantasy novels with amazing world building or anything, but they're a really, really fun, pretty quick reads. They're, fun storytelling, lots of romance, and definitely not PG, so if you're thinking of them as YA, they're not really YA, maybe new adults, but yeah, just keep that in mind. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. So this was what I read, and then I watched the new Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson, and so that was really fun. One of the challenges was to read a book that's got a pink or red cover, and for that I read Rosemarked by Livia Blackburne. I think I gave this one 4 stars as well. And the cover is just stunning. The book is beautiful. I really enjoyed it. I didn't feel super emotionally invested in the characters, but I thought that the world was really interesting, and I thought the story was really interesting, and I definitely want to continue on with the series. I thought it was like very well put together, and I liked the characters. I didn't like dislike them or anything. I just didn't feel like deeply emotionally invested in them. There's this empire that has sort of spread to control outlying areas, and there's this deadly disease called the Rose Plague, and most people die from it. There are 2 kinds of people who don't. One is the Rosemarked, and when you get this disease, you get these bright red, sort of rose-colored markings all over your body, and the rose marks are people who recover, but the marks stay red, which means that the virus or whatever it is still in their system. Eventually they'll have a relapse and they will die. But then there are the umber-touched, who are very rare, but the umber-touched come out of the disease, get better, and the marks turn to this kind of golden brown color, and they are then immune from getting the disease again, and they will survive. So this book follows 2 characters, a girl named Ziva and a boy named Danaeus, and Ziva is Rosemarked. So she knows, she's a young woman, she's a healer, and that was how she got the disease in the first place, healing people with the illness. And Danaeus is umber-touched, so he is immune to the disease. Both of them come from communities that have been taken over and oppressed by this empire, and the story kind of follows them going, I don't want to give too much about the story away, but basically going to try to find a way to overthrow the empire and start a revolution. And so it's really interesting. The storytelling is really good. The world building is interesting. I say it's fantasy. It doesn't really have magic in it. It's so it's like kind of fantasy. I really enjoyed it. The other thing that I want to mention about this that I thought was really interesting is in her note at the end of the book, the author says that she did research into people dealing with terminal illnesses, then that informed her writing of the character Ziva, which I think is pretty interesting because she's this really young girl. She's probably like 17 or 18, but she essentially has a terminal illness. She knows that she's going to die and relapse with the rose plague and die of it. And so it's interesting because you do kind of get some of that of not only these themes of oppression and resistance, which, you know, I'm always a huge fan of in books, but you also get her kind of grappling with the fact that her life isn't going to be much longer and she doesn't know how long and how to handle that and, you know, how to cope with the death of some of her dreams. Yeah, so it's really good. It's a really well-written book. It's really interesting. I really liked it, so I do recommend this one. Then I read an arc of a book that I actually finished and then sent off to a friend because I wanted to share the love. But one of the challenges was to read a book about relationships, and I actually read 2 books that meet this challenge that I'm going to talk about. The first one, though, is this super, super fun book that's coming out, I think, in April. It's called My Lady's Choosing by Kitty Curran and Larissa Zagaris. And this book was just really, really fun. It's an interactive romance novel, so it's a choose-your-own-adventure romance novel, you guys. It was so much fun and so funny. I think you will especially enjoy this if you're into the romance genre because it's a very sort of tongue-in-cheek take on romance. Again, very much not PG. There are a lot of like sex scenes in this book. However, they're like pretty funny in a lot of ways, if that makes sense. Because they sort of, you know how like some of the romance novels will use these like weird euphemisms for various body parts and actions and stuff? So they sort of do that and then take it to the nth degree, but do it themed on the path that you've chosen in the romance novel. So, for example, one possible love interest you could go with is this like Scottish Highlander, and this is the other thing, is they also sort of like include these very typical overdone tropes in the paths. It's very funny, but in the Scottish portions, one of the words that they use a lot is caber. So a caber in actuality is like those big logs that Scottish men will like throw in Scottish Highland games or whatever. But in this, caber is used as like a euphemism for male anatomy. I mean, it's things like that, but they do a lot of it, and it's to the point that it's just like ridiculous and really funny. So possible paths that you could take include paranormal romance, the Scottish Highlander, like I said. There's like a hate to love nobility thing, kind of in the vein of Mr. Darcy. And then there's like exotic adventures in Egypt. There's a potential female-female romance thrown in there. So there's a lot of different sort of directions it could take. I definitely got a kick out of it. I rated this one 4 stars and I just thought it was fun and funny. So if you need something really light to get you through reading in someday, I would go pick up My Lady's Choosing. I think it comes out in April, and yeah, especially if you're into romance though and you like funny things, totally go pick it up because I think you will get a good laugh out of it. And then the last book that I want to talk about for my Cozyathon wrap-up is a collection of short stories called Meet Cute, Some People Are Destined to Meet. And you guys, this book was adorable. It's a collection of short stories by young adult authors all about meet cutes. And if you're not familiar with the term, it's when 2 people meet in an interesting way and it begins a romance or leads to a romance or something like that. And so these were just really, really adorable. I actually also went to a signing event with a few of the authors from this. It was just really fun. Danielle Clayton has a story in here, Catherine McGee, who I already knew I liked them, but the other people that are pretty popular are Jennifer L. Armentrout, Katie Cotugno, Sarah Shepard, Nicola Yoon. There's like a whole bunch of people. I think it's like 12 stories, and I really enjoyed all of them. None of them were bad. Some of them were amazing. There's also a ton of diversity in the stories, which I really enjoyed. I mean, you get racial diversity, you get various forms of LGBT romances, you even have one transgender girl who is a heroine in one of the stories, and I just thought that they were really well done. Some of them were super adorable, and if you're interested in hearing more about it, I always review all the books I read on Goodreads, and a link to my Goodreads account is in the video description down below, so if you want to know a little bit more about this. But I really recommend it. I thought it was like a super cute collection of short stories. So that is it for my Cozyathon wrap-up. I had a really good time with it. I got a lot of reading done. I read some really great books and thoroughly enjoyed it. So I am looking forward to participating in the next one because I think she's doing maybe 2 a year at least, and so they're really fun. So definitely go check that out. Talk to me in the comments down below if you guys have read any of these, if you are interested in any of them. I always love chatting with you. If you guys like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.